Yeah, Chit Prabhuji, when you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17. Mother Parvati curses Chitraketu. Let me start with my brief prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Text 21. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, unaffected by the conditions of the material world. He creates all the conditioned souls by his own personal potency. Because of being contaminated by the material energy, the living entity is put into ignorance and thus into different conditions of bondage. Sometimes, by knowledge, the living entity is given liberation. In Sattva-guna and Rajoguna, he is subjected to happiness and distress. Text 22. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally disposed toward all living entities. Therefore, no one is very dear to him, and no one is a great enemy for him. No one is his friend, and no one is his relative. Being unattached to the material world, he has no affection for so-called happiness or hatred for so-called distress. The two terms, happiness and distress, are relative. Since the Lord is always happy, for him there is no question of distress. Text 23. Although the Supreme Lord is unattached to our happiness and distress according to karma, and although no one is his enemy or favorite, he creates pious and impious activities through the agency of his material potency. Thus, for the continuation of the materialistic way of life, he creates happiness and distress, good fortune and bad, bondage and liberation, birth and death. Text 24. O mother, you are now unnecessarily angry, but since all my happiness and distress are destined by my past activities, I do not plead to be excused or relieved from your curse. Although what I have said is not wrong, please let whatever you think is wrong be pardoned. Text 25. Sri Sukadev Goswami continued, O King Parikshit, subduer of the enemy, after Chitraketu satisfied Lord Shiva and his wife Parvati, he boarded his airplane and left as they looked on. When Lord Shiva and Parvati saw that Chitraketu, although informed of the curse, was unafraid, they smiled, being fully astonished by his behavior. Text 26. Therefore, in the presence of the great sage Narada, the demons, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka, and his personal associates, Lord Shiva, who is most powerful, spoke to his wife Parvati while there. They all listened. 27. Lord Shiva said, My dear beautiful Parvati, have you seen the greatness of the Vaishnavas? Being servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, they are great souls and are not interested in any kind of material happiness. Text 28. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any conditions of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Text 29. Because of the actions of the Supreme Lord's external energy, the living entities are conditioned in contact with material bodies. The dualities of happiness and distress, birth and death, curses and favors are natural byproducts of this contact in the material world. Text 30. As one mistakenly considers a flower garland to be a snake or experiences happiness and distress in a dream, so in the material world, by a lack of careful consideration, we differentiate between happiness and distress, considering one good and the other bad. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Achyut Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, when you're ready, Sundaracala Prabhu, you can continue, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Achyuta Kafel Prabhu, for reading today's translations. So we are discussing the history of Mother Parvati curses Chitraketu, chapter 17 from 6th canto. So as a continuation of the chapter, so far it was discussed until yesterday by Sri Krishna Prabhu up till 19th verse. So we're going to cover from the next few verses, 20th. So far for the context where we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, we are talking about subsequent creation, the Visarga, to the daughters of Daksha. So within that context, there was a question asked by Parikshit Maharaj to Sukadeva Goswami, and then this has led to all this explanation, and Chitraketu's pastime was described. And Chitraketu saw the Lord Shiva amongst an assembly of sages with Parvati on his lap. Chitraketu laughed at Shiva and made a remark in which Parvati got offended. So she cursed him and to become a demon. So that's the context, and we'll start with brief prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunivadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktabinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Good morning, dear devotees. So we'll continue our Bhagavatam session today. Thank you for attending. So the 21st verse in this chapter, Mother Parvati curses Chitraketu. It talks about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one. Mother Parvati says, unaffected by the conditions of material world, and he creates all the conditioned souls by his own personal potency. Because of being contaminated by material energy, the living entity is put into the ignorance and thus into the different conditions of bondage. Sometimes, so this verse is actually saying, Lord, so it might, we might get a question when we hear this statement of that Lord is unaffected, but and he is unaffected by happiness and distress and dualities that comes with the modes like sattva guna, raja guna, and tamoguna. So it might appear then why would Lord allow these material energies to act on the jiva? So this question might ask, this means Lord is partial to someone. So this question might ask, so this is actually not Mother Parvati's statement, this is Chitraketu's statement. And so for that, Chitraketu answers in the next verse that Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally disposed towards all living entities. Therefore, no one is very dear to him, and no one is greater enemy for him. No one is his friend, and no one is his relative. Being unattached to the material world, he has no affection for so-called happiness or hatred or so-called distress. So in this verse, while Chitraketu clarifies this, the question that might arise, if Lord is equal to everyone, why does he make one person happy and cause grief to others? So for that, Chitraketu, in his glorification of the Supreme Lord, he actually, as a continuation of his prayers, so he speaks the 23rd verse. So in this verse, Chitraketu Maharaj is saying, although the Supreme Lord is unattached to our happiness and distress according to karma, although no one is his enemy or favorite, he creates pious and impious activities through the agency of his material potency. So, thus, for the continuation of materialistic way of life, he creates happiness and distress, good fortune, bad, bondage, liberation, birth and death. These dualities Lord creates for the continuation of materialistic way of life that Jiva desires. So who is responsible for happiness and distress? Is it Lord? No. Lord creates this material world with full of dualities. It is up to the usage of one's free will that brings um, so it is a usage of free will, and it is up to the jiva. Just like if you turn on, just like an electrician puts a um, electric switch to turn on a light. So he is not attached to turning on and turning off the light. But the person who is using it is going to turn it on and turn it off. So similarly, Lord creates this material world and with modes, and it is up to us. It is up to us whether we want to choose the transcendental, instead of reacting with the material modes of nature, whether to take up the transcendental worship of the Lord or to stick to the material world. It is up to us. And similarly, here, Srila Prabhupada explains beautifully with so many analogies the neutrality of the Supreme Lord. And he's not blaming Parvati for the curse that he has received. He's not blaming demigods. He's not blaming Shiva, right? If you see the attitude of Chitraketu, he's not blaming Lord, Supreme Lord also. So he's not blaming anyone for this situation of being cursed. He says, I deserve this because of my past activities, and I accept this punishment. This is a wonderful, glorious quality that he has exhibited. Earlier, we understood from various verses that Lord is ultimately the doer, but he is not responsible for the results, the fruitive results like happiness or distress or bondage or liberation. He is not responsible for that. So devotees identify that. Devotees know that part. Everything is happening because of Krishna's will. Lord is ultimately doer. Yes, there is no doubt about it. But ultimately, you cannot hold Lord responsible for our actions. And because um, His Lord is beyond the power of words, right? And you cannot use this power of words or word jugglery to hold him responsible for the actions that you committed. That and so many examples that Srila Prabhupada gives. Government to explain the neutrality of the Supreme Lord. So, for example, government has various departments. Government ultimately is supreme authority, and there is an individual. So, different people experience different things, happiness, distresses in terms of their individual judgments. But government is equal to all citizens. The sunshine is neutral. If you close your door, sunshine will not come inside your house. If you go into the cave, there won't be a sunlight. It is up to you whether to enter the cave or uh, bl- you know or not to allow the sunlight to enter your house. It is up to you. If you want to be in the sunlight, it is up you can choose so. So similarly, there is another analogy Srila Prabhupada explains. Lilies, flowers, open or close because of sunshine. Bumblebee will enjoy or suffer, whether it will enjoy, relish the honey when it is when there is a sunlight, but when as soon as the lily is closed, the bumblebee is stuck inside those flowers and the bumblebee also dies. And who is responsible for it? When the sunshine is gone, the petals will close. So bee is entrapped, right? So it cannot come out and it will die also. So we cannot blame sunshine for it. We cannot blame lotus for it, not the lily flower. So we cannot blame honeybee. Bee went inside. Depending on the timing in which the bee has entered there, it is either trapped or freed. That's the point Prabhupada says. Therefore, mm, here Chitraketu is inferring, I did not please you just to get free from this curse. So he's not trying to explain these verses to pacify, Mother Parvati, thereby counteract the curse by pleasing her. That's not the intent of. He's ready to accept the reaction of the curse. So text 24, it is explained, oh mother, you are now unnecessarily angry, but since all my happiness and distress are destined by my past activities, I do not plead to be excused or relieved from your curse. Although what I have said is not wrong, please let whatever you think is wrong be pardoned. So here wonderfully, Chitraketu Maharaj is being exhibiting his humility here. Clarification for his he's trying to clarify. So if you the lesson so far is clarification he has given, right, to Mother Parvati. He did not ignore the Mother Parvati's feelings. He clarified, he took effort in clarifying her. And also he accepted the punishment without without blaming anyone, right? He accepted punishment because of his, and he corresponded them with his past activities, and he's not blaming anyone. So these are the lessons. When a person speaks, it is not his current understanding of what he's reading now. There is a here Chitraketu is speaking out of a lot of realization, churning, experience that went on behind the words that he's speaking now. It's based on the lifetime accumulation of his of the realizations that he has from practicing devotional service. That's why in this verse, um, another lesson that we can learn is whether one is right or wrong. That is a secondary thing. I might be here, Chitraketu might be right, or Mother Parvati might be right. Whatever is, according to the context, whoever is right or wrong is a secondary thing. Whether my behavior, Chitraketu's mood is like this. Whether my behavior has displeased or pleased another Vaishnavi or Vaishnava is more important thing than whether I am right or wrong. That is the lesson or essence of this particular section of this chapter. So validity and invalidity of your concern is one thing, which is one level. Pleasure and displeasure of a Vaishnava when they experience because of our um, because of our behavior or because of our activity, that is a next level thing. So here Chitraketu Maharaj is saying, please forgive me. I do not plead to be excused and relieved from this curse, although I have not said anything wrong. But whatever you think is wrong, let it be pardoned. May be forgiven for that. That's what he was saying. So it requires a lot of inner strength to say this. So mm, many times when a person is wrong also, they try to justify that they are right. And because the thickness of ego is depending on the thickness of ego, he, to that extent, he tries to justify his wrong act, or even if he hurt someone, a Vaishnava, depending on the thickness of his ego, he tries to justify. Now, this is not a justification given by Chitraketu Maharaj. This is a mood of detachment that he exhibited here. So, if we displease a Vaishnava or Vaishnavi with our activities, words, or anything, sometimes due to our services, we'll get there. That will actually affect us, not just, and also, one has to take responsibility for the other person's displeasure. It's unavoidable. For example, Akrura, when he was given a duty to actually get Krishna and Balaram from Vrindavan to Mathura, Krishna approved his activity of taking them. But here, what happened was, in the course, uh, gopis were hurt because he took without having to. He didn't felt like explaining gopis that I am taking Krishna away for so and so reason. He didn't even care to give an explanation to them. He could have said something like, "My dear gopis, I know it's causing pain to your hearts that I'm coming and taking away Krishna and Balaram and disturbing your peaceful life, taking. But I'm doing it because of unavoidable circumstances. Please forgive me." And if he had said that, Akrura, the gopis could have given, could have allowed him to take them, or maybe at least they could have forgiven them. They wouldn't have cursed them, Akrura, or chastised him. So this is somehow Akrura did his duty. He was very insensitive to the feelings of gopis. So gopis said, "You are the cause of our distress." They pointed out now, because of the way Akrura was insensitive. "You are a Krura," like that they commented. Yeah, and so you have to receive this reaction. So he had to receive reaction in, Akrura received this reaction during the Samantaka pastime, Samantagamani pastime. He caught in the conspiracy, right? So one has to experience that. When we hurt a devotee, even if it is part of our service, we have to be sensitive, effort to explain, at least give an explanation to that devotee. So one may have to do some duty because of unavoidable circumstances, but he should also be sensitive to other people. And mm, even though what he's doing is perfectly correct, he has to implement. For example, mm, there is a system that you have to put in place in temple, or and it is affecting so many devotees. Like, for example, you became a prasadam in charge. You have to put strict rules to ensure no food wastage and everyone gets prasadam. You have to put a system in place. It is helpless condition of that particular administrator, and he does not want to displease any devotees, but he's doing it out of unavoidable circumstances. So there is something that, so here what we are trying, basic lesson is, there is something more subtler than wrong and right. Being right and wrong is there, that is there, definitely there, but there is something subtler than that when it comes to the etiquette with Vaishnavas. And we can say that I never meant anything wrong. When we are confronted with a situation, I never meant anything wrong. Because you are displeased, I am sorry. Chitraketu just said this. Similarly, we can also follow his footsteps and mention like this. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. Right? And like that we can also say. And we don't have to be apologetic, but at least we can try to explain them. For every context, we cannot be apologetic. And in certain circumstance, one may be wrong, one may be not be wrong, but he gets result in that circumstance as a punishment or reward for his past activities. This is another context for his past activities. This is the attitude that a person has to always have this, carry this message in his heart, that as per Chitraketu's behavior here, we have to see that as a as a reaction to our past activities, anything that is happening in our life as a devotee. And ideal response is given through the example of Chitraketu. You know how we react. For example, here Chitraketu's ego was crushed, right? And he already had a darshan of Lord, and he's an is exalted devotee also. But he was so much, his ego was crushed in this incident, but he still didn't exhibit any frustration here. When one is insulted inappropriately, when one's efforts are unrecognized, similarly, when one's integrity is questioned, when one's position is minimized. So all these things happened in case of Chitraketu Maharaj, but he was still unwavered from his behavior. Uh, and everything else is subject to change. These dualities, emotions that we go through, everything is subject to change. Only Harikatha is it has to be given attention to. Calamities will happen, divert our attention to attention away from Krishna conscious, but we have to make sure that we never get diverted. We need to practice that, and we have to deal with the dualities to extend that. um, we have to deal with the dualities in a way that we are not distracted from the absorption Krishna consciousness. That much effort only we have to put to deal with the dualities. That is the top priority. And okay, here another point is what we discussed so far, whether through pacifying or not pacifying, right? When we affected some other devotee, whether to beg forgiveness or not beg forgiveness, ultimately devotee is concerned about others' feelings. This is the underlying point. We have to be concerned about others' feelings. So refining attitude is a big responsibility. We have to keep refining our attitude. It's a big responsibility while we are practicing devotional service. So these Krishna Katha, these pastimes of exalted devotees are going to help us to make that happen. We need to constantly introspect and make that happen. This is the purpose of reading Srimad Bhagavatam also. This is one of the purposes. And actually, it is explained, Mother Parvati was astonished seeing the response of Chitraketu in the verse 26. By saying all this, Chitraketu has left the place. He didn't say anything else. He just left the place. And Parvati is astonished seeing the response of Chitraketu, these set of verses and responses of Chitraketu. Shiva patiently waited while all discussion is happening. And he did not interrupt when Parvati was cursing. He did not interrupt when Chitraketu was waiting. He just waited. After Chitraketu left, then Shiva started speaking. Just to glorify the attitude of devotees, now he is going to speak. This is such a beautiful verse, verse 27. Lord Shiva said, "My dear beautiful Parvati, Shri Rudra Uvacha, drush, drushta, drush, društavati asi sushroni harer adbhuta karmanaha mahatmyam भृत्य nispruhanam mahatmanam." So he's saying, Društavati asi sushroni. Sushroni means a beautiful woman. Oh, beautiful Parvati. Did you see Društavati? What, what is that? Harer adbhuta karmanaha. Do you see wonderful, astonishing activities of Lord Hari? Mahatmyam bhrutya bhrutyanam. What is astonishing activity of Lord Hari here? in this context? To exhibit glories of his devotees. He glorified his devotees by revealing the Chitraketu's attitude in this context. Nispruhana Mahatmanam. All his servants are so glorious that they have such wonderful attitude. Nispruhana. What is and what is it mean by Nispruhanam? They're very detached and very renounced. They're Mahatmas and they're renounced. They have no desire for sense gratification. So, by apparently by all mental calculations, if you observe this, the whole episode, Chitraketu is a big player. He's ruling a Vidyadhara planet. He's a big king, and all of a sudden um, he was in he was put down. He was crushed and cursed. It may appear outwardly that Chitraketu was a failure at the end. But here, Chitraketu is successful as per Shiva's statement. Chitraketu is successful in exhibiting devotional attitude. So this is at any point of time, a devotee's quality, real character will be exhibited at the time of crisis. So here, Chitraketu is successful in exhibiting his devotional attitude even at the time of crisis. So by calling Parvati Shushroni, our Lord Shiva was only trying to compare her beauty with the beauty of devotees. My dear Parvati, you are very beautiful, but beauty of devotees is more greater than your beauty. They are servants of our Lord. What are Lord's wonderful activities? He showed Chitraketu's wonderful activity. So that is the Lord's glory. Lord has caused you to offend and utter curse, Shiva is saying. He showed devotion of a devotee which did not decrease at all. And immediately, even though Mother Parvati cursed, Chitraketu did not blame Parvati. He did not blame Shiva. And he did not say to Shiva, saying, my dear Shiva, please correct your wife. You kept on watching but not seeing anything. Why don't correct your wife? She cursing for small thing. He didn't say anything like that, right? Chitraketu, no, Shiva didn't misunderstood Chitraketu. That's why he didn't try to explain Shiva. Chitraketu knows Shiva did not misunderstood Chitraketu. That's why he was silent. None of the assembled members also did not misunderstood Chitraketu. So when someone misunderstands us, uh, we may take shelter of another devotee who doesn't misunderstand us and try to seek shelter in his solace and try to get pacified through his help. Although we speak sympathy from someone else who is not misunderstanding us, but Chitraketu did not speak single word with Shiva. So that is the quality of devotion that he's exhibiting. He spoke only with Parvati. He dealt with that. He tried to pacify Parvati. He tried to explain, not try to justify, but try to explain and pacify her dissatisfaction. And his intention was not to prove Parvati was wrong. All his statements, if you carefully observe, he never intended to prove Parvati is wrong in the eyes of Shiva. And his intention was more to please Parvati, who is displeased with him. So that was the intent of Chitraketu here. So general context, even if someone might have caused hurt to us and someone words have hurt us, uh, you may take some solace by going to a friend. We may seek some solace. That's good. That's why Vaishnava Sangha is helpful. It's not, we are not trying to say that we are not supposed to take help of other Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis in order to take solace from the situation. It's difficult to follow what Chitraketu is exhibiting is the point here. And we cannot imitate such great souls. But we can take him as an example. Try to cultivate this character. cultivate the appreciation for such great, glorious quality of Chitraketu. And another lesson is, yeah. Here, another thing is, curse has become powerless. This is another context that Shiva is inferring. Your curse, dear Parvati, is powerless. That's what he's trying to also infer. Curse became powerless, curse became useless. If curse cannot give a slightest anger and unhappiness to Chitraketu, then that curse is powerless. So your curse is useless, my dear Parvati, he said. And so we should not treat devotees having prema bhakti like this. This is another message that Shiva is trying to infer. He is already having a prema for Lord Sankarshan, and we should not curse or treat devotees having prema bhakti like this. This is a lesson he is trying to hint. So Parvati also understood that tarorapi sahishnunam. He is exhibiting, but Mother Parvati did not exhibit the tarorapi sahishnunam. Of course, Mother Parvati is trying to, play a role of another Vaishnava being, we cannot keep quiet when another Vaishnava is being insulted. We need to speak up. We have to take action. So, but in the case of Chitraketu, he is trying to exhibit this quality of tarorapi sahishnunam. So the next verse 28. Devotees solely engaged in the devotion service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear of any condition of life. So this is a verse that we can memorize. This is a wonderful verse. Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bhibyati sargapavargya narakeshu apitulyartha darshinaha. Devotees solely engaged, Shiva is saying, solely engaged in devotion service of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any condition in life. Fearlessness is the outcome when we worship Narayana. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and hellish planets are the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. That's why. Tolerating when some severe injustice is done to us. At least to our level, we should try. Though we cannot exhibit the tolerance level of Chitraketu, at least to our level, we should try. We should cultivate that, if not to the level of Narayana Para survey. So this is the reason Narayana Para survey, they are fixed up in Narayana. Because they are rooted in their service and dedication to Narayana, nothing can affect them. Nothing can affect them. And here Anukulyena Krishnanushrilanam is the quality of a devotee, quality of Chitraketu. Anukulyena. He's engaged, liberally engaged in Lord service. And Brucha, why I was trying to mention this Anukulyena Krishnanushrilanam is if it is equivalent to Brucha Brucham, in this verse or previous verse. Although Chitraketu provided one example of tolerance and excellence, all devotees who have taken shelter of Lord as eternal servants are glorious. So this is what Shiva is inferring. All the devotees, not just Chitraketu. He's basically Shiva is glorifying all the devotees because they are Anukulyena Krishnanusevanam. They are fixed up in the service of the Lord. And if one does not surrender to Narayana, he will end up in dualities. That's what his next verse is explaining. Text 29 is a counter. If one doesn't, surrender to Narayana or doesn't worship Narayana, he will end up in dualities. That's what Shiva is saying. And text number 30 it is mentioned as one mistakenly consider a flower garland to be snake or experience happiness or distress in a dream, So in the material world, by the lack of careful consideration, we differentiate between happiness and distress, considering one good and the other bad. So dualities in this world are no better than a dream. One is, and Bhagavad Gita, Krishna constantly reminds that one has to overcome the dualities, the experiences of dualities. One is it is difficult to overcome the dualities at the subtle body level, mind, intelligence, and ego, but it is at least relatively easier to be um, to tolerate the dualities that happen with our physical body, like heat. We can use probably cool, we can use a cooler or a AC. If we get hot weather, we can, sorry, if we get hot weather, if we get a cold weather, we can use a heater. So we can actually do some kind of adjustments, but one has to practice devotion service in order to be able to uh, face the dualities that are experienced at the subtle body level. And here the theme of the purport in this verse, what Prabhupada is trying to say, basically chant and be happy even in this material world. Prabhupada is saying, chant and be happy. Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and be happy. And if one has devotional consciousness, then as I think it is said by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. The whole world is so blissful. Experience will be so blissful when we have developed this devotional consciousness by chanting the holy name regularly. So materialistic people means dreamy state, and dreamy state of enjoying material pleasures and the pains that uncircumstantial or unavoidable pains that come with it. So this is basically dreamy state. So that is basically a definition of materialistic people. They are basically in the dreamy state. Uh, um, Mind is the medium between dreams and wakefulness. Mind is the medium. So everything created in mind in terms of sankalpa or vikalpa, determination, or not having detached, is called mental concoction. Basically, anything, everything related or created in the mind in terms of sankalpa and vikalpa is nothing but mental concoction. This is the definition given by Prabhupada. And happiness and distresses are there. People get overwhelmed by it. To the extent we have a connection with the spiritual sound vibration, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, to that extent we're aloof. To the extent we take shelter of devotees, associate with devotees, not we are aloof from these dualities. It is like coming out of a dreamy state. That is how we need to come out of this dreamy state. Take shelter of sound vibration, take shelter of transcendental devotees, and this is it for today's session, dear devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Sundaracala Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Srimad
Hare
Bhagavatam ki
Krishna.